morning, beautiful people. Welcome to yet another episode of the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah Wachera. I hope you guys have woken up well and are excited to face your day. Yeah? For me, I am really excited and I'm actually enjoying this morning. So I hope you guys are also doing the same. And as it is the norm here at the Younib Breakfast Show, let's go straight to the morning bite of the day. We've all been there. Heated arguments, cold silences, slammed doors, and long texts that maybe should have stayed in drafts. Conflict is part of life. It shows up in our homes, at work, with friends, even in group chats. But the biggest question is, do we know how to handle it in a way that actually brings growth, not more damage? Today, we are diving into the messy, complicated, but absolutely necessary conversation around conflict and conflict resolution. And joining us are our very own therapists who are going to help us unpack in all ways why we fight and how we fight, and more so, how to fight fairly. So grab your tea, maybe text that person who you've been ignoring, and let's have this conversation. Remember to interact with us through our social media platform, Younib_TV on Instagram, Younib Media TV on Facebook, and there's a number on your screen. You can SMS or WhatsApp 0719 144 144. And of course, if we talk about mental health, you already know that we are proudly sponsored, or this is proudly brought to you by Miss Yo Ashen and Younib organization, and we are trying to reach out to the community and teach you matters mental health. So if you need any mental health help, you can always call the number 0700 352 250, and our very own psychologist will be able to help you out here. So allow me to actually introduce to you our experts of the day, who are our very own psychologists here in studio. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back, Valentine. It's been a minute.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so how is your morning today?
My morning is okay. I'm really happy to be back on set. I know nilikuwa nimepotea kidogo, but sikupotea kwa ubaya, and I thank God that I'm here today. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Beulah, how is your morning today? How are you feeling?
Right. I'm feeling good. My morning is good so far. And as always, excited to be here with you, our dear viewers, to go through this conversation together.
Okay, and today, as I said, we're having a conversation on conflict and conflict resolution. And as I started, this is a conversation that really we need to speak more about. Yeah, it's something that we have all passed through. Everyone, there's no perfect person, or there's no person who can say, anyway, I have not undergone conflicts. Yeah, and we have done crazy things for the sake of conflict. We have acted in different ways, and today we just want to know. So we are here to actually learn on how we can resolve conflict. So yes, are you guys excited for this conversation? Yes, I'm also excited because I'm ready to learn, and I'm sure everyone is ready to actually make amends to the negative side of conflict handling. Yeah. Yes, so to start us off, and I'd like you, Valentine, because tumekaa sana bila kusikia jina yako ikitajwa, and also tumekaa sana bila kusikia sauti yako. We missed it here in studio. Yeah, so tell us, what is the common or the most common source of conflicts in relationship, either romantic, family, or professional relationships?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think before I dive into that, maybe there are people out there who might have just a definition of what conflict is.
Yeah.
Maybe through experience, but how the English people, let me say, how they define conflict. Basically, conflict is a disagreement between two or more people, and in many cases, it usually comes because as human beings, we are dynamic creations. We don't remain constant. Then the other thing is that our traits are very different. You might find that one person is silent, the other person is loud, the other person can decide to be on both. So depending on the personality traits, which determine how a person would behave, that can even arise to a conflict. For example, if I am in a relationship whereby I'm an introverted person, I am a quiet person whom before I talk, I have to think of how you feel, because mostly introverts behave like that. Unlike the extroverts, they say anything regardless of whether whatever they would say is harmful. Like, they don't have that second thought. So you might find if it's a relationship of two people, one is introverted, the other one is extroverted, you might find that it's really challenging for them to come up and think in the same direction. So that can be a source of conflict, our personality differences. So if there is a person who is in a relationship and does not know the personality of the other person, most of the time they might find that they are in arguments just because of the personality. Another thing is that because we want different things in relationships, we have different goals, we have different values, and sometimes these values and goals might conflict. Maybe I want to buy a plot. We are in a relationship. Maybe my partner wants to buy a car. So you see, for me, I'm looking on buying a plot, and him is looking on buying a car.
Yeah.
And that can really bring conflict, because if we are not able to sit down and decide, are we buying a car or are we buying a plot, that can bring conflict, and in some cases it may lead to divorce or even a separation. At the workplace, what usually bring a lot of conflict if there are unclear set of responsibilities. So you might find that in your workplace, you find that maybe you are doing everything. Let me give an example. It's an office. Maybe the office does not have it doesn't have like clear set of responsibilities. You might be find that today you are being sent to send maybe a letter to the post office. Maybe this letter needs to be delivered. You are being told you are the one who's supposed to cook. And I'll use an example, like you have been hired or appointed to do the work of a receptionist, but you find that in this case they are giving you other duties which are not supposed to be yours. So you might feel like they are being too much on me, and that, since there is no clear set rules, set responsibilities, you might find that may bring conflicts between you and even the people who are telling you to do other tasks. The other thing is if people are not able to communicate openly on maybe the structure or how somebody is supposed to channel their issues through, you might find that can also bring a conflict in the work environment. So for relationships and families, the problems are kind of similar, because if you find that in a family there is a father, a mother, and even the child. So for the children, maybe if I'll use an example of a school, they've been told to go and tell their parents that the school is inviting them for a parents meeting, and then this child is not able to do that. So you might find maybe the teacher may call the parent, and since the child did not share that information to the parent, you might find that it will bring a disagreement. The parents will start calling their children or their child, telling them that they are liars and all those kind of things, and that will cause disagreement and conflict and a lot of things. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for that profound explanation when it comes to conflict resolution. I know now we have gotten to understand why we mostly really have conflicts, and why conflicts really start in the different environments, why we definitely need to actually see early environment. So thank you so much, Valentine, for that. And today I want to ask you guys a question, and my question is, what's the worst way you've ever handled a conflict? Please let us know through our social media platform, Younib_TV on Instagram, Younib Media TV on Facebook, and there's a number on your screen. You can SMS or WhatsApp 0719 144 144, and with time we'll be sampling them as the show continues. For now, let's take this short break and we'll be back with more. come back and I'll go straight to sampling some of your comments. So the question was, what's the worst way you've ever handled a conflict? Yeah. I'll sample the first one. I sent a 7-paragraph text, then blocked them before they could reply. Elite ghosting level. Someone else says, I argued with my best friend over who left the gate open. It was me. Still waiting to confess. That's a nice one. Okay, I'll read another one. I wrote a long emotional message and deleted it before sending, then expected them to apologize for something they didn't even know happened. Someone else says, I pretended nothing happened and avoided the person for weeks. The tension was so thick, even Wi-Fi signals couldn't pass. I'll sample someone else. I shut down emotionally and withdrew. I thought I was protecting myself, but I ended up hurting the other person deeply. And let me sample one last one. Told my sister you need therapy mid-argument. She clapped back with, you start first. We both went. Now we are cool. Thank you so much for your responses, and continue actually interacting with us through our social media platforms, yeah? Because it's through your responses and your feedback that we are able to actually learn together and also see that we are making an impact, yeah? And Beulah and Valentine, I don't think that pia nyinyi mmekosa kukuwa na a time where you've really had an argument and ukaanza kusema, was this even really, did I have to do this? Yeah. So if you don't mind sharing, please let us know one of those awkward moments or one of those conflict moments that you felt you handled conflict very badly. Tuanze kwako Beulah.
Okay. There are quite a number. I think the one I can share is, so I called, we were not karibu, we were not near each other, so I called so that we talk about what has happened. And I just cried the entire time. Like no one was saying it. Just cried and then hung up. And expected for things to be okay from that point on.
Yeah. Okay, that was not badly
off. Good.
Yeah, at least you released tension, yeah. And the other person knew you're not okay, so it was not badly off. Valentine.
I'm still thinking, but maybe I would say being angry is one of unhealthy way that sometimes not only I, but most people usually use to solve their conflict. Because sometimes as human beings, we usually expect that the other person should know better.
Yeah.
So because you expect that the other person should know better, you become angry, you don't talk or you don't call, or if it's at home, maybe you decide that maybe you are not cooking just because you had a conflict. Yeah, and I think we've even seen this. It's a form of abuse that usually come, and mostly it's in marital relationship whereby there are people who've openly expressed that because they had a disagreement, the partner was not able to like engage in a physical relationship. Yeah, so those are some of the unhealthy ways that we use to handle our conflicts. Yeah.
We are still waiting for your experience.
So, I think I have already shared my experiences that I become angry and I don't talk. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that was the point.
That was the point, and then I added the rest. Yeah.
Okay, now we understand. I think all of us, in one way or another, we have gotten ourselves handling conflicts in a very worst way. I've gotten myself slamming doors after people because honestly, you're just angry. You've made me angry. I don't want to beat you because honestly, I'm not capable of beating people. So what I do, maybe I slam the door back at you and then I go and then I ask myself, did I have to do that really? Did I? And I know all of us have been there, yeah? So going back to the conversation of the day, small issues, it's always the small issues that will always build up to big conflicts, yeah? So I remember somebody always saying about marriages that sometimes you may just find couples arguing because of maybe a pair of socks vile imeachwa tu hapo, or how you're folding a t-shirt, or how umeeka toothpaste kwa the toothbrush. Yeah? So there are different ways that people do. But I want to ask you, Beulah, why does it have to be the small issues are the ones that really escalate? And please give us a psychological view on that.
Why the small things? I tend to think the small things always point to a bigger issue. So it's not about the sock. It's maybe about how many times have I spoken about that sock. So now it's not that the sock is misplaced. It's that I feel like you don't listen to me, or I feel like you don't care about how I like my things to be done, or I feel like you are not choosing to align with my values. So those small things usually point to a more sensitive, a more core issue. And oftentimes it's the small thing, it's the interpretation we make of it, of that small thing. So it could be, the example you've just given of the sock, or of, the t-shirt. And the person might be thinking, I keep showing you how I like things to be done, or I keep showing you how I like my food to be done. So it's not about the food or the cloth or the what. It's about feeling like, okay, then maybe you don't hear me, or maybe you don't care about me in order to pay attention to the things that I care about. So it goes back to a more sensitive issue of, do you even see me? Do you even hear me? Do I even matter to you here? And that's why a small thing like this can cause such an eruption, because it's going to the core of a person. It's touching on the needs to be seen, to be accepted, to be loved, to be known, and to know that someone knows you, and to show that, right? So yeah, that answers.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Okay, I like the fact that we now understand why it's always the small things. Because honestly, if we just reflect, take the time to reflect and see that big conflict always came up from something small, something that somebody maybe just something small. If somebody didn't text you at night to tell you good night, and that became a big thing. So at least now we have a perspective on that. Yeah.
Can I add on that?
Yes, please.
Maybe I would say many of these conflicts usually arise, just like I had said, we are different people. Like that, your text. For many people, yeah, it's like that. But there are these people who they don't see it as a big issue. Like if you don't text me good night or good morning. But kuna wenye wataichukulia personally, I would say all of it will sample to our personality and even our upbringing, the kind of environment that we grew up in. Yeah.
Okay. And I like the fact that you've taken us to you had mentioned about unhealthy conflict resolution, yeah? And I'd like to know, is it true that avoiding conflicts is really unhealthy? And number two, when is it the right time to walk away from conflict?
Okay, so in some cases, it depends with the situation, because sometimes you can be in a conflict and then avoiding, maybe not necessarily avoiding it, but walking away from the conflict and looking for an opportune time to come and express your concerns about the conflict. Because if maybe somebody is angry, I don't expect people who are in conflict to be happy about each other. Definitely that's not true.
Yeah.
There is no way you can be laughing and we are in the middle of an argument. And because at that particular time we cannot make the correct decisions, so what we can do, we can walk away, but don't avoid like, yeah, I walk away and then I just go and don't resolve this issue, because that's an unhealthy way of dealing with the situation. It means that things will keep on piling and piling and piling, and one day when you've reached to that point where you cannot take it anymore, what happens? You end up doing something that is really bad. An example will be you can even kill a person. Why? Because you are not used to talking about the issues that you are having. So avoiding it, if you notice that it can lead to a physical form of abuse, you'd rather walk away for a bit of time, and then now you come back and address your concerns. A lot of how we handle the conflict, it's just through communicating, talking of the things that you like. And I would really emphasize on communication, because as human beings we keep on forgetting. Seme kama hata hiyo socks, I know even in our homes, we do forget, and people have to keep on repeating and repeating and repeating. Yeah, so this person who is repeating, don't take offense in repeating, because we are human beings. Sometimes we forget, or most times we forget. So we need to be reminded of these things. So avoiding is, I wouldn't want to say it's bad and good, because it's both good and bad, depending on the time that you have chosen to avoid the conflict. Yeah.
Awesome. And as we continue reflecting on our unhealthy ways of resolving conflict, I want us to go for a short break, and we'll be back with more concerning the discussion of the day. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is still the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah Wachera, and today we are having a discussion on conflict and conflict resolution. Yeah. So before the break, we've gotten the opportunity to actually learn what conflict is all about. We've also understood why the small issues really matter, and also we've gotten to hear your perspective or your feedback when it comes to the worst reasons or the worst way you've handled conflict. Yeah. So coming back to this conversation, we'd like to know now more on solutions. Yeah, you know, we can always list the problems, we can always list the ways we unhealthily resolve conflict. Yeah, but it's important for us to seek solution. Yeah, and that is the important thing of us, not to regret of our previous life or what we've been doing, actions and experiences, but to look forward on how we can better build ourselves. Yeah. And that brings me to the next question. So, Beulah, how do you help someone who struggles with expressing their emotions in conflict situations?
Okay, that's a good question. And I think a lot of us fit into that box where conflict happens and you just want to shut down, ignore, or avoid, and then pretend it's all okay. And what happens is that is you keep carrying the resentment. Every time I see pressure, I'm like, apologize, and maybe it's because you never communicated, so you never got to know what it is that you did. So how do we help that person? One, it's important to understand why it is that they function that way. Valentine talked about personalities as, you know, a contributing factor to how different people resolve conflict. she also mentioned backgrounds, right? So it could be that your fear of communicating your emotions is based off of a fear of being rejected or of being misunderstood or of making the other person feel bad. And so we want to understand, why is it that you feel that way? Why is it that expressing your emotions is such a difficulty or is such a fear for you? Could it be that you grew up and witnessed all the wrong conflict resolution methods? You saw people fighting and you are very averse or very scared that that is what being in conflict means. So clearing that, understanding what has formed your conflict language, if I can call it that, helps us then see what needs to move from that, because it means then that we need to build, assertiveness. We need to talk about values. We need to talk about creating boundaries and communicating those boundaries. And so we start with, small exercises of how do you tell someone not to do that? How do you tell someone that has made you feel that way? And we teach to use language that is focused on you. So I don't come and say, Pesh, you always, you never, you do. I tell you what it has made me feel. I talk about myself so that you can talk about yourself. And mentioning the always and the never, it's also something that we want to make sure that we are not using, because we want to deal with the situation that has happened, not a situation that we're projecting will always happen or has never happened, because that's not based on truth. So to summarize, we want to understand, why is it that you function that way emotionally? And then 2, we want to build those skills that empower you to actually now speak your mind and speak what you're talking about.
Okay, awesome. And I hope that will be of help to anyone who is trying to actually build their conflict language. I've had that there, yeah. To build their conflict language, to make it a healthier way of expression, yeah. So thank you so much for that. And I hope we are taking notes. Again, I usually say it's important for you to have a pen and a paper so that you can always take notes for this, because we always bring you informative information where you'll be able to actually grow yourself and make yourself better, yeah. So Valentine, I'd like to know, how can someone recognize? We've been told about conflict languages. So how can I know? Or if somebody is struggling to know they have a bad conflict language, so how can someone recognize that their approach to conflict might be harming their mental health or the mental health of others?
Okay, I think it's quite easy for some people, not all, to recognize that their approach or their way of handling conflict is not good towards them. And many people usually hide in this phrase, like milk hivyo. This is what most people usually say, like, I'm always like that, or if you don't talk to me, I don't talk to you, and that's who I am. So so some people might use such phrases just to please the mental struggles that they have. If they look closely into their minds and their thoughts, they'll be struggling, even emotionally. You might find that kind of a person is feeling terrible, horrible, or worried or afraid. Yeah, you're not talking to this other person. So in your mind, you're wondering, what are they thinking about me? What if I lose them because of my bad behavior? So sometimes some of these approaches that we usually use, which are unhealthy, I believe those people, maybe when they get into an argument or a conflict, they bang the door, or they break the TV, or they break all the cards. At the end of the day, when they get to sit down, it's not that they are going to be happy people. They are going to be people who will be feeling frustrated, in as much as they felt like, nilivunja hiyo kikombe. All these days they use it, like, maybe if you break a relationship with them, maybe kama alikuwa amekununulia kitu unakuja unachukua. If it was a pair of shoes, me, I'm coming for my shoes because we had a disagreement. I'm coming for my shoes. Or if it was a phone I was bought, I'm coming for my phone. So at the end of the day, even when you go for that phone, you stay with it. There are some of the questions that usually arise in your mind, like, did I do the right thing? So that usually end up affecting your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, sometimes even your physical well-being. So I would advise our viewers and maybe even ourselves, because we might also be struggling with that. We choose the correct way of solving our conflict. And I believe some of it is what Beulah has talked about.
Yeah.
And a lot of ways in which we solve our conflict is through communication and keeping on repeating things, because like I said, we are human beings. We never register. Like, we are not like computers. You see, if you just store an information in a computer, it will stay there. But for us human beings, we do forget, and things usually change in our lives. Yeah.
Awesome. I hope we are taking notes. Again, you should be taking notes, because this is something that influences each and every one of us. Yeah. So Beulah, how can, or what is that one thing that everyone should have in mind when resolving conflicts?
I think I would say, let's remember that conflict, the whole point of conflict is not that there is a winner and a loser in that situation. It's that we get to understand each other and we get to resolve whatever issue, whatever misunderstanding, or whatever unspoken expectation, or whatever it is that has led to that conflict. That is what we want to resolve. So if we take the focus away from winning and losing and leaving there either a winner or a loser, then we're able to listen better to what the other person is saying. We're also able to communicate better and more calmly, because now we're not just trying to be the loudest in the room or to make the biggest point. We're actually trying to understand each other. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And I hope, again, that will be useful to help you in your conflict resolution journey, yeah? Because honestly, we all had our bad sides, we all had our worst moments, but I hope that through this show, we'll be able to actually get healthier way of coping. We'll be able to actually adopt the new and healthy way of solving conflict. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming and enlightening us on this important conversation, because it's really needed. It's something that everyone has experienced, either in their workplaces or wherever, at home with their family members, with friends. Yeah. It's something that really is constant everywhere. So asanteni sana for taking your time and coming to share your mind with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To everyone who has made this show a success, thank you so much, Elias Muchina, for being the camera person and also the director of the show. Asante sana for the good work you're doing. And to you, our viewers, thank you so much for always ensuring that every Tuesday and Wednesday, you are always tuned in to the Younib Breakfast Show. It's because of you that we get the excitement. We get also the opportunity to come and inform you. Without you, atungekuwa hapa. So asanteni sana. And until next time, do have yourself a beautiful day ahead. Goodbye.